Hello, dear friends. Today in this video, we're going to be discussing this incredible and potentially life-changing book, Saved by the Light by Dannion Brinkley with Paul Perry. This is a man who is so amazing and incredible. He actually died twice, once in 1975 and again in 1989. Today, Rena and I are going to be discussing it.
Yes, hi. So my name is Rena, and I've got Cynthia with me, and we are the owners of OurVoice.club, and we are here to support your awakening in expressing your authentic self through developing your connection to Source. And we got so excited when we read this book, and we just said, you know what? This is one of those books that's going to help us get to Source and understand our connection to Source. So, Cynthia, do you want to go through and talk about why you got excited about the book in the first place?
Yeah. Um, this book was a real confirmation for me. I had read other books about near-death experiences, or NDEs, as they're called, and Dannion was just really articulate and well-spoken about how he shared his story. It confirmed a lot of things for me. It reinforced my idea that, and my belief that death is really an illusion. Death really doesn't exist. We change form, we leave our body, and we move on to a beautiful next experience, next adventure. And that I'm still going to be me when I die. I'm still going to have my own consciousness. And Dannion just really reinforced that so beautifully in his book. Um, Death is just a transition, and dying is more the question, I think, for a lot of us, how we die, the manner in which we die, but the actual, death itself it looks like it's just really quite easy. What about you? When you read the book, how did you feel about it?
Well, it was a lot of the same thing of what you said, but what struck me is the peace that I felt because I know that there are so many people who are afraid of dying, and I loved that he was able to actually die for 28 minutes.
Yeah, something like that.
And he
Yeah.
was pronounced dead and wheeled away in another room and everything. And it's quite the story. But when he did come back to life, he was able to articulate in this book all that he went through. And I'm excited to share that with people. But I'll say that what struck me as the most important piece is that it did bring peace. And I think that any of our audience that wants to dive into this a little bit more or just listen to what we have to say about it will find that there is a peace there and that death is something to not be afraid of.
Yes, I agree.
So, like you say, the build up to it may be one thing, like sickness or whatever, but the actual process of dying is quite beautiful. So,
And it gave me peace of mind too, and just a knowingness, like, yeah, that feels right.
yeah.
It feels right what Dannion said, and we would just highly recommend this book. But one of the things that I discovered in reading this book was I compared it. I'm always comparing sources, and I compared it to other accounts I'd heard of people who had had near-death experiences. And there are some really close similarities between Dannion's account and other people that I've read. And I wanted to bring those out and tell our audience, if that's okay with
Yep.
you. We can talk about the different steps.
Yeah.
But I kind of broke it down sort of analytically into numbers. So one of the first things that happens, it seems, upon death is that we come out of our body and we can see ourselves. And the way Dannion describes it and others is that they hover over the body. They actually come out and they can see themselves in the operating room or in the ambulance or on the road or wherever it is where you actually die. They come out and they can watch what's happening. So you actually maintain your own awareness, your own consciousness continues. And you can actually have that self-reflection of, wow, it looks like that's me down there.
Right.
Right?
And look at those people working on my heart or whatever.
Yeah, and then you're sort of watching it almost in amusement. And that really struck me too, didn't it, for you? He
Mm-hmm.
said he kind of watched it without emotion, without
Just
particular
an
pain,
interest.
an interest. It wasn't painful. It wasn't particularly that emotional. It was more sort of like watching a TV show or
Right.
something. I think he said that in the book, that
Right.
he kind of watched what was happening, hovering over him, seeing his loved ones come in and out of the room, going, "Oh my God, I can't believe it's happened," and he's watching all of this. And so when my father recently passed a few years back, I remember I was right there when he passed. I was holding his hand. And then there was that moment when I looked up at my dad. I knew he could see me.
Mm.
I
How
knew he could
powerful
see
is
me.
that?
Yeah. And I said to him, "Hi, Daddy. I'm here. I love you. Get going." And I knew he was watching the doctors come in and out of the room and the
Mm.
nurses. And so when I read Dannion's book, it really helped just to just bring that to a real conclusion for me, like a real affirmation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see what's happening. So after being aware and sort of reflecting on, wow, look at these people down there, the next thing Dannion describes as a tunnel appearing. And we've all heard about the tunnel, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about the tunnel appeared, and it's kind of has swirls in it, and it has some furrows in it, and it has some sort of texture. And he talked about it's kind of darkish, but at the end he could see light at the
Light.
end, and somehow he passed through. He almost describes it like a portal.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think that sounds like a
Yeah.
portal?
I've heard that before. Uh-huh.
Yeah, like a portal. So you go through the portal, and then it's bright at the end, and he went through, and he heard music. And I've heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
A soldier I had read about who had a near death experience, he talks about when he was in the tunnel and going through, that there was actually the sound of the spheres, the symphony of music
Oh, that's beautiful.
was playing. And it was interesting to read Daniel's account. He said that he could hear chimes ringing and moving, and he heard more and more music as he got closer to the light. And then you come out of the tunnel, and then you're surrounded by this light.
Yeah.
And the
And you're
way,
just at peace, right? You're
oh, you're so at
just
peace.
completely, incredibly like a peace that you've never known before.
Yeah,
But yet at the same time, it's a remembering because you have experienced it before.
yeah, exactly. And you're so surrounded by love that you are just enveloped in it. And he
Mm-hmm.
describes this warm feeling, this love, and the light is bright, but it doesn't seem to come from a single source. Like he looked for a sun and he couldn't find a sun, or it was just light everywhere.
Yeah.
And coming out of the darkness into the light
Mm-hmm.
um, was so powerful. And he talks about it as being all pervasive
Mm-hmm.
and soaking everything. That was my word, soaking, but sort of everything is bathed in light and peace and calm, very soothing. And he says that you can feel the greatest love you can possibly imagine there,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So the next
Some
thing,
people are greeted by their
and then the next thing is, yeah,
yeah. Some people are greeted by their friends or family members, right? And
yeah,
then some people, like I think Dannion said, it was just an angelic presence or
yeah, a being of
a
light, he
being of
called it.
light, right?
Yeah, yeah, being of light approached him.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it was as this was on page 8. It was as though I were seeing a loved one, my mother, my best friend, multiplied 1,000-fold. He said I felt comfortable in their presence. I had the feeling that no one could love me better, and no one could have more empathy, sympathy, encouragement for me personally. And that this being of light knew him better than anyone could possibly know him. And there
Yeah.
was no judgment,
No,
no
none.
judgment at all. The next step people talk about is after they are greeted by loved ones or a being of light, an angel, a presence. Some people see Jesus, some people see Buddha. Different, religious cultures have
Mm-hmm.
different experiences, what they're greeted with exactly, but they all seem to be in this similar place. There's no judgment. It's loving. It's warm. You're happy. You're at peace. And the next thing they talk about is a life review. And this is a really important topic because of the way Dannion describes the life review. And in part 2, our next video, we're going to talk about how Dannion describes that all-important life review. And if those of us could just know that we were all going to go through
Yeah,
this,
if we know now what we will know then,
our
we'll have a better
behavior,
behavior, right?
our behavior would change because it's very, very important, the next step.
Yep.
So thanks for listening today. We're glad you could join us.
Yes, and we just want to say that we decided, Cynthia and I decided as we were making these videos, that we want to end them all on the same kind of note, and we find this very important, is that you will remember that whatever you learn and whatever you experience, that you are the creator of your reality. And so take that to heart so that you design the best version of your reality that you can possibly be, and then breathe into that so that everything that we learn along this path, we're empowered to know that we are our own creators.
Absolutely.
And so take this information that Cynthia just shared, all those steps that Dannion had shared, and know that you can create your own reality, even upon death. So
we look forward to seeing you on the next one. It'll
yeah,
be part 2.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. So we can
11 minutes
stop.
and 30 minutes.
That was